Want something sweet that doesn't pack on the pounds? When you look at a food label, how do you know if the sweetener is going to improve digestion or cause diabetes? I'm Corey Applin, and this is Compound Action: How Small Steps Create Massive Change. And today I'll break down the list of alternative sweeteners, which ones to use and which ones to avoid at all costs. I'll cover the 4 different categories of sweeteners: sweetness of each, glycemic index, calories, and pros and cons. I won't really cover taste because that's going to be subjective. You might have to test a few to see which one fits your flavor profile. And for those who don't know, glycemic index is a measure of how quickly a food raises blood sugar levels. It ranges from 0 to 100, with glucose being the highest, meaning it raises blood sugar levels fastest. And if something doesn't raise blood sugar levels at all, it would be a 0. The higher the number, the more likely high consumption can lead to health problems like metabolic disorders. The 4 categories I'll cover are refined sugars, like table sugar that most people are used to, and high fructose corn syrup, which is used in processed foods. There's natural sugars, like what you'll find in honey and certain plants. There's sugar alcohols, which can occur naturally or be produced commercially. And then, of course, artificial sweeteners. But let's start with just regular table sugar. That's what people are the most familiar with and used to eating most often. So it'll serve as a good baseline of comparison. There's about 16 calories per teaspoon, and it has an incredibly high glycemic index of 65. There's no real nutritional benefit, especially when compared to some of the other options. It's considered high in calories and can promote obesity and metabolic problems. Similarly, high fructose corn syrup is another refined sugar, but you're not going to find it at your local grocery store except on the food labels. It's really cheap to make, which is why it's used in so many processed foods. Even though it has about the same number of calories and about the same glycemic index as table sugar, the high fructose is the bigger problem. Glucose can be used by just about any cell, but fructose is primarily processed in the liver, where it can get converted into fat and lead to a rise in visceral fat. That's the fat that surrounds your organs. It has a greater impact on metabolic health, insulin resistance, and ultimately metabolic disorders like diabetes. My take-home message: stay away from it. It's disguised by many other names on food labels. Food companies know that people are catching on, so they're hiding it in plain sight by using names like crystalline fructose, fruit fructose, maize syrup, which maize is Spanish for corn. They really are hiding it too well, but they do try to hide it. If you visit CoreyApplin.com, I will link it here. I'll include a PDF you can download with all the different names to look out for. Now, the next category is artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but the draw to these sweeteners has traditionally been that they're 0 calorie and 0 on the glycemic index, so they don't impact blood sugar levels. They range anywhere from 200 times to 600 times sweeter than sugar. Now, the primary risk is that they may contain potential carcinogens, cancer-causing agents. And proponents will say that the amounts are not high enough in normal consumption to cause a real problem or a real risk for cancer in humans. But we're already getting just a little bit of carcinogens from our air, just a little bit from our water, just a little bit from our processed foods. So how much do we have to stack up before it becomes a lot? Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the US, so I personally avoid these types of artificial sweeteners, but you be the judge for yourself. Now, the next category is a really interesting one. It's called sugar alcohols. And often these are promoted as natural, but they also typically require a high degree of chemical processing. So they could be considered processed, just not in the same way that artificial sweeteners that I already mentioned are. Some examples are erythritol, xylitol, and sorbitol. Sorbitol has the least amount of sweetness at only about 60% that of sugar, with only about 10 calories per teaspoon. Erythritol, on the other hand, is about 70% as sweet as sugar, a very low 1 calorie per teaspoon, and zero impact on blood sugar. That's why it's been a favorite for people on the ketogenic diet. But recent studies are showing some correlation with blood clots, so I'd definitely be careful there. Xylitol is very interesting. It's about as sweet as sugar with only about 10 calories per teaspoon and a lower glycemic index of 13. What makes xylitol unique is it's been shown to help prevent cavities. It's antimicrobial, so it hinders the growth of the bad bacteria that can cause cavities, but it doesn't affect the good bacteria of the mouth. It's also alkaline, so it reduces acidity, which can help prevent enamel erosion. I actually use xylitol in a probiotic mixture that I make for my kids specifically to help prevent cavities. To them, it tastes like candy, so they love it. The one major precaution is xylitol is toxic to dogs. So you definitely have to watch out for the furry friends. Woo, okay. We've made it to the last category, my favorite, natural sweeteners. Now, within this category, there's actually two subcategories. There's natural sweeteners that contain sugar, so they're going to be higher calorie with higher glycemic index, but they usually come with some other health benefits. Then there's going to be natural sweeteners that don't contain sugar. They're usually 0 calorie and no impact on blood sugar levels. I'm going to also save a couple of the more unique ones for the end, so definitely stick around. Honey, maple syrup, and coconut sugar all have sweetness similar to table sugar with about 15 to 20 calories per teaspoon and a glycemic index around 55. So they are higher calorie and higher in the glycemic index. But honey contains antimicrobial agents and it's a powerful antioxidant. Both maple syrup and coconut sugar are also antioxidants and contain trace minerals. So there's some other health benefits there. Agave nectar is another common natural sweetener, being about 1.5 times as sweet as sugar. It's about the same number of calories as the ones I already mentioned, but much lower glycemic index of only about 15. But agave is higher in fructose. And as we learned from high fructose corn syrup, the fructose could have a negative impact on liver and metabolic health. So definitely use sparingly. Now we have two non-sugar natural sweeteners, stevia and monk fruit extract. They're very sweet, being 100 to 300 times sweeter than sugar. They're both 0 calorie and zero on the glycemic index, but they taste very different. Stevia is known to have a more bitter aftertaste, while monk fruit is cleaner and closer to the taste of sugar. But it's definitely a personal preference which one's going to fit your taste profile better. And here we go, the final two on my list. Number one is allulose. Allulose is considered a rare sugar because it's found in only very small amounts in things like figs, raisins, jackfruit, maple syrup, and even wheat. Now, because the amounts are so small, what's available at your local grocery store has likely been produced through an enzymatic conversion from fructose. But allulose has some very unique properties. It's about 70% as sweet as sugar, but only has 2 calories per teaspoon and zero impact on blood sugar levels. This makes it uniquely beneficial for those trying to lose weight or those with metabolic problems like diabetes or those trying to prevent weight gain or other health issues. And the last natural sweetener on my list is the only one I had never heard of before doing research for today's episode. It's called yacon syrup. It comes from the root of the yacon plant in Peru. It's very low calorie, only about 7 calories per teaspoon. It's only a 1 on the glycemic index, so almost no impact on blood sugar levels. So that's already great. But what's really cool is it contains fructooligosaccharides, which are prebiotic fibers that promote beneficial gut health. I love the idea of this. People are just chronically deficient in fiber, and gut health is a huge issue. I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I have a bottle in my cart right now, so I'm going to buy it. I hope it tastes good. Let me know in the comments if you've tried it before, if there's anything I should be looking out for. So many sweetener alternatives out there, some with some pretty amazing health benefits. So if you haven't tried them, now's your sign. That's it for today's episode. Stay healthy out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.